Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. We are starting another video today. As I talked about in my last video, I received my first ever ARC, which stands for Advanced Reader Copy. And thank you, Nerd Fam, for this book. I am so excited to read it. It is called To Bleed a Kingdom. It is by Ella Dawes, and I have it here on my Kindle. I believe for this author, this is her first book, so this is her debut novel that's coming out, and it is supposed to be a series. And again, if you guys want to get your own copy, this book will be available on March 26th. I believe it's going to be in print, and it's going to be available on Kindle, so you guys can go ahead and purchase a copy. I'm going to link the Goodreads for this book down below, and I believe everything there should be linked, but if there's anything else for this book, I will link it all down below for you guys. It is a dark fantasy romance, and basically this is going to be like a reading vlog. I'm going to kind of talk about my feelings and kind of review the book for you guys. I'm not exactly sure what the spice rating is going to be, but based on the descriptions that I was given, I can assume that it is going to be spicy on a scale of 1 to 5, or 0 to 5, I guess, with 0 being nothing. I'm going to say so far it's very graphic, and I'm going to guess it's closer to a 5. So I'm going to read to you guys the little blurb, little synopsis about the book that was given to me so I can kind of give you guys an idea of what you're getting into with this book. Most likely that's going to be smut. There are content warnings. We're gonna see how this goes. I've already started, and I think it's a great book. So some of the content warnings: it contains dark and violent elements that may be difficult for some. Triggers contained, but are not limited to, fantasy, gore and violence, vulgar language, non-consensual sex, graphic sex, and PTSD. The prologue, you get immediately thrown into all of those. Yeah, you don't even have like a second to breathe when you start this book. It goes right into it. I just made it to chapter 5 last night. The author has done an amazing job of really finding that hook, and like the writing style is really good. Again, I'm really liking it. Dark fantasy is not normally something I read, but this is very intriguing, very interesting. There isn't like a crazy amount of world building that's happening, so it's not like it's gonna take me 20% of the book before I really get into it. I got into it right after the prologue. The prologue was pretty decently long. But yeah, while I was reading it last night, I read the content warning on my before I started my stream, and here are some of the faces that I made during that stream because I was just so in shock that you just got thrown right into everything that was happening. Hey friends, so I'm about 70% through the book, and I've been taking some notes on my phone, and I want to share with you guys some updates on how I'm feeling about To Bleed a Kingdom. So initially I was hooked on the book. Obviously it threw me in to all of the content warnings all at once. Really throws you into the deep end. As I kept reading, I probably got to maybe like 50% last night, and one of the things that I noticed is that the author uses this one word a lot, and honestly after a while it kind of got annoying because I was kind of like, use another adjective. So I'm gonna play for you the word because I'm gonna pronounce it wrong. Saccharine. Saccharine. It basically just means excessively sweet or sentimental. I've had to Google this a couple times, and the author keeps talking about this as like a saccharine smile, and it's mentioned maybe like 5 times before I even get to like 50% of the book, because again I'm reading it on the Kindle, so I get percentages. I think that's a little bit weird. I'm not a big fan of that. That word is no longer having the same effect on me as it did when I first read it. There were a couple other things that I noted about this author's writing style. Yeah, she tends to use a lot of the same language. She repeats a lot of phrases. A lot of descriptions are pretty general. I will say that there are some times when it is a little bit more explicit when describing body parts, their sexual reactions to each other. I don't know how else to explain that. Their arousals, I guess. It's a little weird. So the other thing that I noticed is that the main characters, we have Darius and Lena, or Lena. I'm not 100% sure what it is. I call her Lena. I'm really going to try to keep this spoiler free so that people can go ahead and read the book without me ruining anything for you. Basically, it's kind of like a Grumpy Sunshine kind of romance in a way. It's also one of those like fated mates tropes where they have like this bond or something where they're just like automatically drawn to each other. They've never been drawn to somebody like this before. They're basically both too stubborn to admit the bond and that they're attracted to that person, are also very afraid of having that bond with somebody else. The reason I say it's kind of like a Grumpy Sunshine is because it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Knock 'Em Out series with Lucy Score. If you've read that and you've read the romance between Knox and Naomi, these two characters to me kind of reflect a lot of characteristics that those two two had in their storyline as well. Generally, Darius is very grumpy. He's just really too proud. He doesn't want to apologize for things. Lena is also really stubborn, and she can also kind of be a grump, and she's just like hiding a lot of secrets. Mentions her as being witty, which I agree. I think that like the majority of the book that I've gotten through from yesterday's point. So last night I finished around 50%, and then today I've gotten to 70. I'm planning to read a little bit more tonight. And just like this whole middle chunk of the book just feels like a lot of bickering, a lot of banter between our main two characters, Darius and Lena, and then all of like their companions and their friends that we see throughout the book. Feels like a lot of banter, a lot of bickering, and I'm just kind of looking for the plot. Like, I know what the plot is supposed to be, and I feel like this back and forth bickering between these two main characters about their romance, we're losing the plot. And it's getting to the point where I'm like, it's just dragging on. Can we move on, please? Honestly, I think if this wasn't gifted, I probably would have DNF'd it by now, because it just felt like a lot of fluff and a lot of nothing in the middle portion of the book. Okay, so I'm like 73% of the way through the book, and I had my first reaction. I'm kind of sad I didn't catch it on camera. Essentially, this grown adult is throwing a temper tantrum, and another person comes over and grabs them. Another person of the opposite sex comes over and grabs them, essentially because this person's like screaming and like kicking and flailing all of their limbs to try to like get out of this person's grasp, who is just trying to essentially tell them like, hey, calm down, which everyone's like, that's a mistake. Literally, the person who's holding this girl
is like, stop that.
And then he raises his left palm and spanks her butt. There was a different term used, but for purposes of YouTube, he spanks her. And no, it's not our main characters, it's other people. But like, and apparently like the person squeaks and they're just like, what? Everyone's like confused about like what just happened, and I'm still confused. And again, I'm only like 73% of the way through. I'm like another chapter in from like where you saw me last, and again, not much is happening. With 25% of the book left, I'm really concerned about the plot of like this war that's happening, and like if this author is going to be able to accomplish wrapping this up, or if this book is going to end on a cliffhanger. And if it is going to end on a cliffhanger, am I going to like it or am I going to hate it? I'm at the epilogue. Let me just start off by saying the main plot of like what you think is going to happen doesn't actually get resolved in this book. Basically, it's just this huge problem that is always in the background this entire book. And because this author, it sounds like they're going to continue with like more books in the series. This book was like setting everything up for the future books in the series. Yeah, so again, yeah, the main battle, the main thing was not solved in this book, even though I feel like it probably could have been for how long this was. The epilogue didn't really give me too much else. I think it's just like another perspective of like what I can expect from like the next book. I feel like the main plot was not resolved. The love story is a hot mess. The beginning was really interesting. I think that the author did a really good job of describing and depicting what you're supposed to be envisioning for this book and the storyline and like this whole world. I thought that was really cool. I did feel like the author at times kind of just went a little too in depth with some of the descriptions. It was quite a bit dark. Very heavily want to remind people of the content warnings. They are very prevalent in this, and there were some things that happened between Darius and Lena, again, without giving away too much
or giving away spoilers in general.
I didn't really love some of the interactions that they had. To me, it felt a bit toxic. I understand everyone has their sexual preferences, things that turn them on, things that don't. That's cool, but again, some of the stuff that happened between the two I didn't personally like, and I just feel like it was a bit longer than it needed to be. This book definitely could have been summarized. I believe the final copy of it's going to be just under 500 pages. I think that with 500 pages, we probably could have cut back on some of the sexual scenes, a lot of the sexual tension between different characters, and we could have focused on the plot. When they were talking about some of the plot and like the war and the battles and stuff, I'm not normally that type of reader, but it was very interesting, and I think the author did a great job with that. I just think she probably should have cut back on the romance stuff. I was like really excited for this book at the beginning of the video, and now I'm very much not. And I feel kind of bad about that because again, this is a new author and I was gifted this arc. But I do want to be honest with you guys, and I do want you guys to know like my true thoughts and feelings about it. I think if you want to give it a shot, nothing wrong with that. I just feel like there are things that could have been worked on. I know that this was kind of like a weird video for me to like throw together last minute. Obviously, there's not a lot of clips, there's not a lot going on. But if you guys did like this type of video, please please be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, let me know what you guys like to see. And if you guys do end up reading this book, please let me know in the comments down below. I want to know what your thoughts are. I know everybody's different, everyone has different preferences when it comes to reading, and these are just my opinions. You guys are welcome to have your own. You guys can love the book if you love the book. I've said this in a lot of my videos recently, but I am posting a lot of book content here on my channel now. So if you do like this content, make sure to subscribe and come back next time. Bye friends.